The BBC boycott ramps up as staff stand by Gary Lineker.
Have you spoken to the BBC yet, Gary?
No comment earlier from the presenter, suspended over comments he made on Twitter. Now coverage of Match of the Day 2 and the Women's Super League are scaled back. Also tonight, ahead of next week's budget, there's help with the cost of childcare for some, but is it enough? In sport, Ireland close in on the Grand Slam after beating Scotland in the Six Nations. Plus,
I'm not going anywhere until Mum's done every single wish.
From barista to BAFTA winner, will it be an Oscar tonight for the rising star with big ambition?
Never judge a big bias cover. Because we are human beings here. We know how to act.
This is ITV News with Lucrezia Millarini.
Good evening. The crisis engulfing the BBC following the suspension of Gary Lineker showed again on screen today, with more football shows disrupted. The Women's Super League coverage was scaled back, and tonight's Match of the Day 2 will be as well. The BBC star presenter was tight-lipped today about his future as he left his home this morning. Sejal Carrier reports.
After days of turmoil and bad headlines, disarray over its guidelines and mass disruption to its sports coverage, tonight there's still no end in the stalemate between the BBC and Gary Lineker.
Have you spoken to the BBC yet, Gary?
As he left his home for a Sunday stroll with his dog and a spot of shopping, Mr Lineker faced the cameras but evaded the questions.
Have you come to any sort of agreement with the BBC yet, Mr Lineker?
I can't say anything at the moment, sorry. We had any discussions?
His son George, though, did tweet. Proud of the old man after a busy few days, he said. Shouldn't need to apologise for being a good person and standing by his word. The reaction of the public has been overwhelming. Thanks for the support. Support that saw a second day of disruption to the BBC sports schedules. Today hitting its coverage of the Women's Super League match, with no presenters and no pundits after they refused to appear in solidarity. Also backing his friend John Barnes, Mr Lineker's former England teammate.
Not long ago in the World Cup, Gary was encouraged to be completely partisan and not impartial at all in condemning Qatar from a political point of view. So I don't know from the BBC's impartiality point of view whether it's only we have to be impartial when we're talking about what happens in this country, but other countries we can be as critical as we like.
We're sorry that we're unable to show our normal Match of the Day, including commentary tonight.
The fallout from the row all too evident on air. Last night's Match of the Day condensed to a 20-minute scaled-back highlight show. Ratings were up by 500,000, perhaps out of curiosity. The Chancellor saying while he disagrees with Mr Lineker's views on the government's asylum policy, it's a matter for him and the BBC.
Well, I don't agree with his comments.
So should he apologise then?
I personally think that he was wrong to say what he said. But if you believe in BBC independence, then it's not for the Chancellor or any other government minister to say how these issues are resolved.
But with tonight's Match of the Day 2 also due to air without presenters, the chaos for the BBC continues. Sejal Carrier, ITV News.
Now, the budget isn't until Wednesday, and in what's now becoming a time-honoured fashion, we already know some of what the Chancellor will reveal. Energy customers on prepayment meters will no longer pay more for their energy and save £45 per year. 4 million households will benefit. But the savings won't start until July. And there will be some help for childcare for parents on universal credit. Their costs will be paid up front instead of in arrears. Under the current system, parents can claim back costs. This is up to a maximum of nearly £650 a month for one child and over £1,000 for two or more children. I'm joined now by our political correspondent, David Wood. So, David, Some help for childcare costs for people on universal credit, but the Chancellor under pressure to help all parents.
Yes, he certainly is, and that pressure is coming from a variety of areas, also from the Conservative backbenchers. I've spoken to MPs who've been meeting with the Chancellor and his team this week, pushing on this issue and wanting more help. But when you talk to Treasury ministers, they say, yeah, we get it, we want to help and we will help, but then they also say it's incredibly expensive and sorting this out will take time. Campaigners, though, warn there is no time left, with saying that tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of parents want to work, and that's what the government is trying to do here, get more people into work, but simply can't afford to work any more, with one charity saying today that if the Chancellor doesn't step in with some funding during this budget for childcare, well, the problem will only get worse.
What we're asking for is £1.75 billion to plug the gap between what the government funds providers and what it costs providers to deliver those places. If we do not get that money in the spring budget, then we will see far more providers close, so we will have an even greater availability issue and we will see costs increase again.
Now, David, we know that there won't be any tax cuts.
Well, that's certainly the hint, although Chancellors never like to talk about taxes ahead of the actual budget speech itself. But the steer from the Treasury is that cutting inflation is its priority, saying that that will help struggling families far more than tax cuts. But there's huge pressure on from the backbenchers in the Conservative Party that as the economy is doing a little bit better than expected, that the Chancellor should lower taxes. The Chancellor says he wants to do it, but the timing needs to be right. Chancellors like to have surprises in the budget, rabbits in the hat, if you like, and the pressure is that that will be tax cuts. At least that's what some Conservative backbenchers want. But Jeremy Hunt's saying he wants to show hope for the future. I don't think Wednesday is the future.
All right, David, for now, thank you. We will bring you an ITV News special, the Chancellor's budget, on Wednesday from 12:15 on ITV1, ITVX and STV. Disaster relief agencies are warning of a potential humanitarian crisis in Mozambique. The southern African nation is being pummeled by Cyclone Freddie for a second time, with strong winds and rain causing widespread flooding. At least 28 people have died there since the now record-breaking storm first made landfall. Alex Isat has the latest.
Forced out of their homes into flooded roads and pounded by torrential winds and rain, the people of Mozambique had only started to rebuild when they were battered a second time by Cyclone Freddie. Formed near Australia over a month ago, the storm travelled 4,000 miles west and hit the coast of Africa before returning in a rare loop trajectory a month later. As the storm threatens overhead, many are worried about how they will survive if it continues.
I'm trying to protect my house. The storm is just starting. We don't know what will happen in the future.
The situation is really chaotic. Lots of destruction, cutting down of trees and also fallen houses. So I have to find a way to try and survive.
The tropical storm has become the longest lasting on record, hitting neighbouring provinces as well as Madagascar. Humanitarian aid is en route to areas most devastated, but with many buildings not built to withstand such destruction, it could be a significant amount of time before many will be able to return home. Alex Isat, ITV News.
2 homes which were in danger of falling into the North Sea have been demolished today. Coastal erosion from strong winds and high tides had caused houses in Hemsby near Great Yarmouth in Norfolk to rest perilously close to the ocean. Another property on the cliff edge was demolished yesterday. An emergency shipment of rocks will arrive on Tuesday to help protect other properties. And 2 families had to be rescued after they were caught in bad weather during a walk in North Wales. North East Wales Search and Rescue said they had received simultaneous calls yesterday after the families had been walking on Mulfamau, which sits between Flintshire and Denbighshire. On to sport, and in rugby's Six Nations, Ireland have moved to within 1 victory of a clean sweep Grand Slam. The world's top-ranked team maintained their winning run this season, beating a rejuvenated Scotland 22 points to 7 at Murrayfield. Chris Scudder was watching.
The flower of Scotland back in bloom. They've been shouting from the rooftops that this was their best team of the 21st century. Defending was ferocious in a titanic tussle against the world #1 team, and the Scots struck first through Hugh Jones.
It's Jones again!
But this is an Ireland of rare vintage. They'd already beaten France, who demolished England yesterday, and Mac Hansen's try edged them in front.
Well, the covering tackle arrived, and he'll celebrate.
Then it was all about the strength of Ireland's squad. They lost players through injury, but struck twice more. First through James Lowe.
And James Lowe gets it down. Try Ireland.
Then, as Scotland desperately tried to stay with them, a third match-clinching try from Jack Conan.
And Conan for the line and the score.
4 wins from 4 for Ireland, 1 more against England, and the Grand Slam will be all green. Chris Scudder, ITV News.
In the Premier League, Arsenal have re-established their 5-point lead at the top. The Gunners made short work of Fulham at Craven Cottage this afternoon. They scored 3 times in the first half, including this one from captain Martin Odegaard in a 3-0 victory. It puts them 5 points clear of second-placed Manchester City. Elsewhere, Manchester United were held to a goalless draw by bottom club Southampton. And finally, from working in Starbucks to jetting off to the Oscars, actor James Martin has had a whirlwind few months. He's a star of An Irish Goodbye, a short film about the reunion of 2 brothers that has bagged a nomination. The 30-year-old told us he is proud of his success. He spoke to our arts editor, Nina Nanar, in an LA coffee shop.
How do you take your coffee?
I take my coffee without milk.
I'm having mid-morning coffee with Belfast's most famous barista, who's also creating a buzz around Hollywood for his other job.
I'm not going anywhere until Mum's done every single riff.
Set in a farm in rural Northern Ireland, An Irish Goodbye tells the story of 2 estranged brothers reunited by the death of their mother. James Martin, who stars alongside Seamus O'Hara, had already had some screen success while also working in Starbucks, where he's something of a celebrity, before he got the acting job that would bring him to the Oscars.
It's just been fantastic. I mean, the timing of it, which you couldn't plan, it's just unreal. It's a nice moment, you know, it is, and you couldn't plan to go to LA, you know, really.
While in LA, he's entertained drinkers at an Irish pub by playing his harmonica alongside his uncle, which he's been doing since a child.
An Irish Goodbye.
Last month, his film won a BAFTA for Best British Short. And he promptly took his award back to the drama group where he'd started. James has Down syndrome and is an ambassador for MenCap. He's proud of the impact of his success.
I do have Down syndrome in real life, and it's just nice to play those characters, really. It's a really lovely story. I always say to people, never judge a book by its cover, because we're all human beings here. We know how to act. We don't treat them as a person with autism, physical disability.
An Irish Goodbye has an Oscar nomination for Best Live Action Short Film, and today happens to be James's birthday. His proud mum will be with him.
31 years ago on the 12th of March, he became my +1. And this year, I'm his +1. Is there anything more beautiful?
Perhaps later today, they'll have another +1, an Oscar statuette. Well, joining James will be the cast and crew of Everything Everywhere All at Once. The sci-fi comedy has the most nominations with 11, and it is followed by The Banshees of Inisherin and All Quiet on the Western Front, which have 9 between them. What we do know for a fact is Will Smith will not be here. He will not be presenting the Best Actress award as is wont. He is actually banned for the Academy for 10 years, and we also know that the Academy has got a crisis team on standby at the side of the stage, ready for any unscripted moments that could possibly happen. So we'll find out in just a few hours who has won what, and the Academy is certainly hoping for an award show that is just about films and just about awards.
Nina, thank you. Busy night ahead. And that's it. I'm back with the late news at 10. Until then, enjoy your evening. Bye-bye.
Visibility may be low this evening as the cold weather hits. Heinz Soups sponsors ITV National Weather.
Hello there, good evening to you. Hope you've had a lovely weekend. Tonight our weather is unsettled as this area of rain continues to push north and eastwards. The brighter colours indicating that rain heavy in places accompanied by a strengthening wind. But our temperatures tonight mild for many away from the far north here. Colder air tucking in. We're likely to see some fresh snowfall mainly over high ground and some icy conditions come dawn as well. So Monday starts off on a mild note, but it will be windy, blustery conditions, gales around the coast with outbreaks of rain or showers. That cold air continues across northern parts of Scotland, so more snowfall here, pushing down into lower levels later on in the day as well. Elsewhere, though, our temperatures staying mild. But that cold air across the north will gradually push to all parts Monday into Tuesday. So widespread frost, icy conditions come Tuesday, brisk northerly winds too, and some sleet and snow showers in places as well. Bye-bye.
Heinz Soups sponsors ITV National Weather.